We're on a mission from God.
Wendy?
So I got that going for me.
Darling?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Light of my life.
We enjoy your films.
I am a human being.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in real time, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Mother's Day on not Mother's Day, September 19th, 1980.
Yeah, what's up with that release date?
I don't know. It was written by Charles Kaufman and Warren Leight, directed by Kaufman, and released by United Film Distribution Company.
So Charlie Kaufman directed this?
Yeah. And wrote it.
Not that Charlie Kaufman.
Not that Charlie Kaufman, no. Or the fictional Donald Kaufman. Yeah, it's weird to not release this on Mother's Day.
Well, I mean, I kind of get the logic in that when you write a Mother's Day horror film, this is not your average mom's cup of tea.
Right.
This is probably not what you want to take her to on Mother's Day. And like, it's not like one of those, you know, New Year's Eve or Valentine's Day movies that they make nowadays that are like, it goes along with the holiday and you want to take your significant other to it or whatever.
But it might be a good like novelty program to like counter programming to be like, oh, well, I hate my mom, so I'm going to go watch this Mother's Day movie on Mother's Day.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it maybe they were thinking that it would have been a hard sell for Mother's Day and it just plays better closer to Halloween.
That's possible.
Yeah, but it's not even really that close to Halloween.
Is it September?
19th? September 19th?
Yeah.
Usually Halloween. I mean, nowadays Halloween movies come out right at the end of September.
Really?
Leading up to October, because once you hit the end of October, nobody's seeing them anymore after Halloween.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't pay enough attention to that genre.
This film was made for a budget of $115,000. The previous owner of the home they filmed it in was actually murdered in that house.
Oh, nice.
By the crew.
In preparation.
We wanted to make it authentic.
They actually shared a few locations with the first and second Friday the 13th movies. Beatrice Pons was billed as Rose Ross so that she could take the lead in this non-union production. She hoped that the name change would protect her from being recognized and ejected from the Screen Actors Guild. She was desperate to play the part of Mother in this movie.
That's weird.
Well, did it?
It's a weird choice. Did
What?
she get in trouble?
Did she get in trouble?
Not as far as I know. I don't think that this movie was very big when it came out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Charles Kaufman is the brother of Lloyd Kaufman, founder of Troma, but this was not officially a Troma film on its release. It was acquired by them later, but I don't think it made a bunch of money for anybody.
You don't think it was as big as Troma films?
No. when you're slightly less successful than a Troma film, you're doing bad.
Troma's younger brother.
Yeah, it's literally Troma's younger brother. We start the film tracking across the audience of some kind of self-confidence seminar called EGO, which stands for Ernie's Growth Opportunity. Evidently, most of this crowd is just the crew of the film.
I really wanted this to go somewhere. I really wanted this to be a part of the story.
Like at least some kind of wraparound at the end.
Yeah.
Ernie instructs the audience to kiss each other and thank them for sharing their stories today.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
This is their second, just awkward kissing movie in a row.
That's true.
Yeah.
He punctuates the presentation with what seems to be his mantra gibberish.
Because once you stop to think about what you feel, you doubt what you know. And once you doubt what you know, you can assume you don't know it. Why? Because you don't act on it. Once you know what you know, you act on it.
And everyone applauds this. He excuses the class, and an older woman from the front row is wrapped up in a conversation with a couple of hippies a third her age. The guy, I think, looks like a cross between Paul Rudd and Benedict Cumberbatch. And the girl's basically
It's Lady Gaga.
Yeah, 100%. The hippies intentionally mention that they don't have a ride home, so the older woman offers them one. In the back seat, as they drive, the guy is pulling out a rope, and he's just tying knots in it very angrily. The car breaks down on the side of the road, and the older woman steps out to inspect the problem. The guy in the back seat urges Lady Gaga to run over the woman while she's checking under the hood.
Well, wait a minute, though. Hold on here. I'm not so sure that these guys were evil in any way or wanted to hurt her in any way, because he's saying, just do it, just do it, just do it. And like as she's reaching forward, it kind of, switches to her putting on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then he says, thank you.
Yeah, as in, like, he's not actually encouraging her to do anything wrong.
But she slides over behind the steering wheel, which she wouldn't have to do if she was just changing the radio.
I know.
I got the impression more that they intended to kill her, and that when she blew their opportunity, he pretended like, oh, yeah, that's what I wanted. Thanks for turning on the radio.
I thought it was a twist on, no, we're not actually evil in any way.
I'm with in the Jesse camp on this one. I feel like they were supposed to be a fake out, but on Pat's side, they were being way too menacing.
Yeah.
Like in their attempt to be not menacing.
Yeah. Is there anybody waiting for you at home?
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen if, say, for instance, you didn't show up?
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that the gag is that they weren't actually going to do anything, and the twist is that it's the old lady who's going to do the things.
Right.
But he even he's so insistent that she turn on the radio that he yanks her hair down into the back seat, and he's like pulling on her and screaming at her to take care of business, and she literally just turns on a shitty song, and he's like, thank you. I don't know why you put up such a fight. Suddenly, a hand with a machete is swinging toward the man in the back seat through the window. Gaga in the driver's seat is screaming, and somehow
she has blood on her before he's been whacked with the machete. There's already blood on her shirt and face.
She's just drenched in it.
It's some of that pre-blood.
Yeah,
she just got preed all over.
Yeah, and
ew.
Oh no!
You gotta cut that out of the show.
No.
In addition to the editing error, I think it was also a mistake to show the full-on prosthetic head in profile for 2 full shots before it gets lopped off, because it gave us way too much time to be like, that's not a real head. I don't care what happens to this.
Couldn't you have just had that be the guy's head for a while?
Yeah, and only show it the second that the machete is touching it. A second assailant yanks Gaga out of the driver's seat and throws her on the roof of the car where her shirt is ripped open and her teeth are just smashed in by a barrage of punches. Like, at first it seems like, oh, he's going to rape this woman on the top of the car, but then he's just hammering her face to the top of the car. It's very weird. The mother is telling the boys to stop for a moment. Gaga crawls to the mother on her knees pleading for help, and mother just strangles her with the rope that they had in the back seat, which I thought the point was that they were planning to use this on her, and so she took it to use it on the other girl, but maybe it's just like oh, here's a thing you brought, now I'm going to kill you with it.
Yeah.
Darlings, you have made your mother very proud.
Yeah, there's a couple of these echoing cutaways.
And then we fade to yellow, and we get Mother's Day in this drippy red Comic Sans font.
Yeah, that was my note. Comic Sans.
Can we really call it a fade to yellow? I mean, I guess
or yellow out.
Yeah. Is it? It's not a dip to yellow, is it?
I don't know.
It complements the red. It's like the ketchup and mustard.
I just think it's really weird that we through all the transitions we go to yellow in this movie.
We cut to a slideshow happening of photographs of 3 girls in college and all their college memories. They're sort of narrating it as we see it, switching from picture to picture. And then we cut from these 3 girls together reminiscing to them in 3 different cities across the country, where the first one is at a pool party in Beverly Hills. This is, I think, her home, and we're getting a cameo from the director as a man who snorts a line of coke off of a silver platter and then collapses out of the shot. Now, I call this a director cameo because in the credits on IMDb, Charles Kaufman is listed as cocaine addict at this party, and that's the only person I would call a cocaine addict. But in the trivia and other places I've read, they say that the person who snorts cocaine is the director's father, but the guy who snorts the line of cocaine is not old enough to be the father of the director, I don't think.
I'd have to look at it again. But
he just looks like a young Ron Perlman, kind of.
Maybe he's a junior,
Maybe.
And so maybe his dad is a young-looking guy also by the name of Charles.
So this is either our director or his father, but I'm not comfortable taking either side officially.
There's a guy credited as Stanley Kaufman, who is older man at pool party.
Right, and I think that's the guy who's talking about Kubrick.
Okay, therefore Stanley, Charlie, and Lloyd's father.
I would think that more than that he's the guy who actually snorts the line of cocaine.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
The woman hosting the party, Trina, receives a telegram, even though the title introducing the scene clearly said present day.
Well, I think officially Telegram stopped in like early 2000s.
Right, so this was like a novelty telegram?
Perhaps.
I think that this would have just been a fax. I don't know why it wasn't just a fax. They were sending faxes in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
We cut from Beverly Hills to Chicago, where Abbey is getting home with groceries. As she enters her apartment, she's getting yelled at by her mom as soon as she's inside. She knows the lecture so well that she's able to lip sync to it from the next room.
If I could walk, I wouldn't stand still for anything. But I'm a sick woman. I'm a sick woman. I'm a sick woman.
She unwraps another telegram and smiles, and we cut to New York, where Jackie is home listening to her voicemails. One is her mother trying to push a new man on her, and the next one is her ex-husband letting her know that they can still file jointly for the year despite their divorce. Jackie packs her bags until a man grabs her from behind and throws her on the bed. It's her new boyfriend Ted, who she thought had something to do today. She reminds him that she's leaving on a trip, and he asks if he can crash at her place before stealing $50 from her purse. Because we get the impression over the course of the story that she just gets fucked over by men. Her entire life, everything that ever happens to her is men taking advantage of her. Jackie's boyfriend reads off a laundry list of excuses why he can't work. There's too much art in him. The theater won't let go of him. Before she leaves, she tells Ted that she loves him, and he says, "Take care." On her way out, the doorman complains that he's bored. And she says, "Well, if you're free for the weekend, there's plenty to do in New York." And he says,
I'll never be free as long as I'm a black man in America.
Trina and Abbey wait on the side of the road in Drexburg until Jackie shows up to drive them to their destination.
Yeah, so why are they meeting here?
I don't know.
Like, I understand they all had to come. One came from LA, one came from Chicago. I assume they both flew into a major New York airport.
Right, because that's where they're coming from, New York, to go to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they all meet in New Jersey?
Yeah, exactly. They could all meet at the New York airport, or at least at a bus station, and not just a random like construction yard.
Yeah, it looks like a junkyard almost. But just before Jackie shows up, a bus stops there and asks if they're the dames from the Historical Society. And when they say no, he just kind of mumbles unintelligibly as he pulls away. I can't even tell what he's saying. And this character doesn't come back. I don't know what that was for. Jackie pulls up to pick them up, and they head off into the woods. In the car, she instructs them to put bags over their heads to keep the location secret. They pull up to a gas station where two kids outside are playing the closest thing I could learn to dueling banjos in a few hours. I read that this film shares shooting locations with the first two Friday the 13th films, but I wasn't able to confirm conclusively that this is the same gas station from the first Friday.
Yeah, it looks
or the same lake.
I think it is the same lake. Inside, Jackie is tasked with purchasing beer, and just as she walks in, the cashier slices open his finger with scissors he was using to trim his nails, so he's bleeding all over the counter. She asks how far it is to Deep Barrens, and the store owner urges her against it.
Don't go messing up in Deep Barrens.
The door to the shop clicks open, and in wander two bag-headed monsters who the store owner seems to have confused for robbers. Jackie's bag-blinded passengers have for some reason wandered into the store less than a minute after her and proceed to sweep all of the store's produce to the floor, leaving Jackie to tell the cashier,
"It's all right. We're all college roommates."
The store owner shouts after them as they drive away.
You get what you deserve in them Deep Barrens, you lesbians.
Yeah, I was kind of like, they don't even try to clean up. They just trash
They
this
just
guy's
knock it all
store.
over and leave. The girls drive past a sign that says Deep Barrens Wilderness Area. Proceed at your own risk. When I hear of a place called Barrens, I think of it being spelled Barrens.
Okay.
Like there's nothing
how is
there.
It spelled here?
But on the sign, it's spelled Barons, which I think is just blatantly wrong.
Yeah, that's not right.
Jackie makes the girls wear their bag heads for the whole hike to the campsite from where they parked the car. They leave a trail of empty beer cans every few feet along the path.
So are we to assume that Jackie... It's Jackie, right? Who's leading them?
Jackie is the host.
Jackie has been here before?
I think so.
Okay.
But she didn't buy enough beer for them to put cans this close together from the car to the campsite.
Yeah, it's not breadcrumbs. You can't just sprinkle them every few feet.
But I also get the impression that it wasn't their intent to leave them as a trail to guide. That's just how quickly they're drinking them. Because one of them says, "Wow, we're drinking so much beer, you could follow us from the trail of cans. Abbey brings up the memory of how she and Trina used to put Jackie in a sleeping bag and lower her out of their window to go on dates with Dobber, an ex of hers. Trina gets tired of walking in her high-heeled shoes and takes them off. The other girls pick on her Beverly Hills attitude, and Abbey asks,
What's Paul Williams really like? Hey!
Trina takes her first barefoot step right into a pile of bear shit, or bear duty, I think they call it.
Watch out, it's bear duty over there!
Well, and also they're not doing much. If there's bear poop, it means there's bears, and they don't seem to be doing much in the way of like
protecting from that.
Yeah, by leaving a trail of smelly food leading up to their camp.
After they leave the shot, we see something rustling in the bushes nearby, and we fade to yellow again and back down on a shot of the lake, likely the same one playing Crystal Lake in Friday the 13th. The three girls make s'mores in their underwear outside at night while passing a joint around. Trina says that she might not even come to these anymore. She's getting bored of these annual mystery weekends, and Abbey hopes that she will rethink abandoning the tradition because these retreats are the only thing keeping her sane the rest of the year. They suddenly notice Jackie is missing, and when she returns from the woods, she has a knife stuck in her back, and Abbey screams. It turns out she's playing a prank on them. Somehow they get back on the subject of Jackie's ex, Brad Call Me Dobber Dobson, only now Abbey and Trina have a harder time remembering his name for some reason. Maybe they're just stoned. We flash back to college, where Jackie brags about her boyfriend to Trina and Abbey.
His name is Brad Dobson, but everybody calls him Dobber. Dobber.
Jackie hops out of a van to meet up with him, and they head into a baseball stadium after hours. Dobber mentions how great he played on the pitcher's mound here in the past, and how he plans to have sex with her here tonight. He lays out a blanket in the dirt, and suddenly, I Think We're Alone Now starts playing out of thin air, which reminded me of our previous horror film, He Knows You're Alone. Jackie tells Dobber that she forgot the massage oils and steps away while Dobber continues undressing. Once he's totally naked, the girls can be heard laughing in the announcer's booth of the stadium. They flick on all the lights and Dobber freaks out.
Yeah.
I don't know why he freaks out.
Yeah.
There's literally nobody there except like her and her couple of girlfriends.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like this character would have just been like, oh, right, I like where your head's at. Like, that would have been it.
Or like casually gotten up and be like, fine, screw you, grabbed his clothes and just walked off and be like, I guess this isn't happening tonight.
Or just finished right there in the middle of the stadium. That seems like a Dobber move. It might have made more sense if Jackie had taken his clothes with her, but instead of just putting them back on, he just runs away with only the blanket into the night.
Yeah.
We fade back to the girls camping, and Jackie admits that she wishes she still had them around all the time to protect her like that. Maybe hinting at her ex-husband as of late, or the boyfriend that she's with now, who both seem fairly shitty. We cut to the POV from the woods of someone watching the campsite and breathing very heavily. We fade to yellow again, and then to morning where there's a tent set up, but all the girls have slept outside for some reason. Abbey throws on a rain slicker and grabs binoculars and creeps away. She watches deer frolicking, and then suddenly a gloved hand grabs her ankle from under a bush and she screams bloody murder. It's Trina playing a joke again. Trina didn't play the joke last time, but these girls clearly just prank each other about murderers a lot. The girls sneak up on Jackie and slap her on the back before jumping into the lake in various states of undress, and we back out again to another POV and see the brothers from earlier are watching the girls splash around in the water. We fade to yellow again, and back to the girls sitting lakeside where Trina is fantasizing about paving this whole lake for a big parking lot. Jackie suddenly catches a fish, and Abbey and Jackie are terrified of it once they get it out of the water. Ironically, Trina is the one who knows how to gut the fish and prepare it to eat. That night, as they lay down for bed, Abbey thanks the girls for being there for her and treating her like a person. Trina is quick to accept the gratitude, and Jackie tries to convince her that she more than deserves any kindness they've shown her.
But you are somebody, Abbey. We only let you see that.
Suddenly, Jackie is pounced upon by a man from the woods. He pulls her sleeping bag up over her head and ties it closed, and a second guy does the same to Trina. Abbey jumps to fight them off and is tossed to the ground before being bagged up herself. The guys drag these 3 occupied sleeping bags all the way back to their home. The boys tell Mama about their catches, and she reminds them to wipe the mud off their feet at the doormat. They drag the girls upstairs and unwrap them one at a time in their home gym and strap them to various pieces of exercise equipment. I'm not sure where they got all this stuff.
I'm not sure that they use it as exercise equipment either. It seems
Probably
more like
not.
a torture room.
No, we see them exercise tomorrow, and it's a little different. It doesn't make use of a lot of this equipment. Each specimen is presented to Mother upon their unwrapping, and they all seem to meet with Mother's approval. Trina fights back when she's unwrapped, and Ike, the taller of the brothers, is slapped, much to the amusement of Mother and Addley, the other brother. Trina is thrown against a piece of exercise equipment and strapped in place and gagged. Mother tells them to back off of Trina and that Jackie will be the first girl. They take her downstairs on a metal leash and drag her outside at night to start setting up for the park bench scene, which is this weird improv game that they play, apparently. The other girls are watching what's happening through a window upstairs, and the boys set her down on a park bench outside, and they basically set her up for this scene. It's a beautiful day, real nice, and Ike says, "Here's your words," and he gives her like a magazine. It's not like a script or anything, and she's holding it, and then the scene starts. Addley's walking by with one of those novelty invisible dog leash things, and he's scolding his invisible dog in a French accent when Jackie just stands up like cutting through the scene to address Mother directly, and she's like, "Please, let us go. I don't understand what's happening." And they all yell at her to sit back down. Behind the bench, Ike is collecting trash in a bag, but suddenly both men are squealing like pigs with knives and slashing her clothes off as they lay her across the park bench. Mother yells cut. She tells them that they need to get better at this, that they left her arm out in some way that she could grab them or escape.
I saw one of her hands free over there.
That was Addley's fault. That was Addley's fault.
That was your fault.
It was your fault. You know it. I was in charge of that.
I don't care whose fault it was.
So this is, in theory, practice for whatever
Right.
it is they do. It's
Exactly.
not just, they're not just like making up a play here. They're practicing how they're gonna attack women.
But they have favorite scenes to reenact too, it seems like, because they're very excited when they hear it's the park bench scene. But then they switch scenes to Shirley Temple, and Ike is less excited about it. He's like, "Oh, I don't really like this one," and but Addley's all over it.
We don't really see what Shirley Temple is, though, do we?
We do a little bit. They dress her up in these raggedy clothes, and they give her like a stack of books wrapped in a belt and a Raggedy Ann doll, and they instruct her to walk like a little girl. And this is when Addley just jumps on her and throws her to the ground and opens her shirt before slapping her around and just shouting, "Bitch, bitch, bitch," as he's slapping her.
Seems like a little bit less to this one than the park bench scene.
There's more to it.
Oh, is there more?
Because then Trina watches from above as Addley rapes her on the lawn while Ike is taking a bunch of Polaroids of her. Before they go to bed for the night, Mother instructs the boys to lock the doors up tight because Queenie's out there and she just knows it. We fade to yellow again, and then to morning outside the house. A Big Bird alarm clock with an almost unrecognizable voice goes off beside Ike's bed.
Wake up! It's me, Big Bird, and it's time to get up. Open your little eyes now. Don't roll over and go back to sleep. Come on now, one foot out of bed. Now the other one. Okay, have a nice day, and don't forget to wind the clock.
I'm not sure that this is the actual voice of the toy, or if they just did a sound-alike thing.
I mean, I'm not sure. It seems like from some of these movies that people were less concerned about
rights and stuff like
rights
that.
And getting sued over this stuff. Like in The Shining, they had all those posters on the
true.
boys' wall, and here we have the Sesame Street sort of alarm clock thing going on. I feel like they just went to a thrift store and like, hey, let's use this. This looks good. Let's put this in there.
And it could just be that the voice box is all kind of worn out.
That's true. And maybe in 1980, Big Bird sounded different than I'm used to from growing up.
Well, especially in a 1980 toy. Like
That's true.
when you watch those Toys That Made Us episodes, some of those voices
So you
don't
just
sound
use
anything
crappy
like the
sound-alikes.
characters.
Yeah. Trina notices a poster beside her on the wall held up with a nail, and she decides that she's going to hop her exercise equipment over there and drag her ropes across the nail to cut them off. Addley races into breakfast with a trap that has snapped shut on a baby raccoon leg. Mama takes it into the kitchen, presumably for soup, as Addley steps across the breakfast table, crushing several donuts in the process. Like the whole table is covered in food, and he just walks across the middle of it. Trina is able to cut through the ropes, and she's making decent progress escaping when the brothers enter suddenly with breakfast for them. Both girls are then cut completely loose and allowed to eat unattended. Trina demands to know where Jackie is and calls Ike a backwards, perverted piece of shit, and he's not offended by anything except for the word backwards, apparently, because they think they're very cityfied here with all their televisions and pop culture toys. The house is littered with G.I. Joes and Sesame Streets and music posters. Ike chokeslams Trina against the wall and says, "We citified, you look around." The brothers are rushed downstairs by Mother to participate in their exercises. Ike stabs at targets. Addley does one-arm push-ups. Ike lifts weights with a headband using his neck. Mother takes copious notes on a clipboard. I don't know what she's writing down. She's just timing them or what? Ike smashes various fruits with human faces. Addley slashes at a baby doll with a machete. In addition to general exercise, they also do a lot of destroying their own house, breaking in windows, even though they apparently have to lock the place up tight at night to keep Queenie at bay. Upstairs, Trina and Abbey have settled on the plan from college, where Trina will be lowered out the window, wrapped in a sleeping bag. Downstairs, Ike and Addley start wrestling and chase each other around the house.
I don't understand the sleeping bag concept of that
why that's any better than just jumping, or
well, I get that it's slightly better than just jumping, but why does she have to be inside of it? Why can't she hold on to the sleeping bag and be lowered down, and then she doesn't have to be lowered all the way. She could just be lowered to a nice quick fall height.
Also, I think you have 2 or 3 sleeping bags in there. You could just zip them together to make one long rope. Also, you had rope in there. They were tied up with rope. I don't understand why she's using like a shoelace to tie this bag up. I
think it's just the drawstring of the sleeping bag.
Either way, it's the size of a shoelace as opposed to a nice thick rope that you were tied up with a moment ago.
And also, a drawstring is only like at most double the mouth of the sleeping bag. It's not going to reach 2 stories to the ground, so you can't lower somebody by the drawstring of a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I don't know. All around, bad plan.
Abby starts to drop Trina out of the window and holds onto this drawstring very tightly in her hands. Apparently, it's long enough to reach the ground. We get a quick insert of the straps against the back of her hand, and it's clearly pinching her skin very tightly.
This is freaking me out so bad. This shot of the string like sawing through her hand.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Addley begins creeping around the house under the sleeping bag, and then Abby has to hold it in place. The rope is dragging tighter and tighter against her hand until it's literally slicing all the flesh from her hand bones, when suddenly the brothers disappear around the house, and she drops Trina to the ground. Trina immediately runs back upstairs to Abby.
Oh my God. Why do you run back into the house?
The only explanation is that the door was locked from the outside.
Yeah, I guess I get that, and you're running back in to save her, but
then they also stay in the house for a weirdly long time after that.
Like immediately exit and the house, run away.
When she enters the house, Trina thinks that she's caught when she mistakes a TV commercial for Burger Bits dog food as someone in the house. Hey, look at you. You need some Burger Bits. And she's like, oh, she realizes it's a TV.
It's like a Home Alone moment.
Yeah. Upstairs, Abby shows Trina her fucked up hands, and Trina rushes her out of the house. But first, they're looking for Jackie in the boys' room. They open a closet and find a corpse hanging on the closet door, and the hippie dude's head in a bird cage.
I thought this was Jackie.
Yeah, I was sure it was
at first too.
Because it's not Lady Gaga.
It's not blonde.
Yeah. So I don't know who this person is. It's relatively fresh. Looks fresher than the head in the birdcage, but then maybe the head in the birdcage lost a lot more blood faster because it's just a head. They start to leave until suddenly a hand grabs Abby's from out of a drawer in a dresser, and they realize when they pull the drawer out that this is Jackie. She's been stashed in this dresser drawer, and she looks on the edge of death. Trina asks, how are we going to get her out of here? And Abbey is just shaking her head no. I wanted Trina to say, quick, I'll put her in a sleeping bag and you lower her out the window. They tiptoe down the stairs, carrying Jackie toward a door to the outside, but for whatever reason, take a hard right just before this door.
Yeah, this whole escape plan is making me a crazy person, guys.
And from the sound design, it sounds like every room that they walk into is the room where all the bad guys are.
Yeah.
Like, it's really frustrating because you're just like, why are they coming into this room? It sounds like the bad guys are in here. Mm-hmm. But they're not every time. And while moving through the kitchen, they are very suddenly tackled by Ike, who throws Trina against the wall by the neck again.
This is Ike's signature move.
Yeah, just a tackle.
A leaping tackle while going, ah, la, 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 la.
Yeah, that's true. But then while he's strangling her against the wall again, he can hear Mother screaming from the front yard. She has collapsed in the lawn and claims that Queenie tried to attack her again. Thanks to Mother's diversion, the girls are able to carry Jackie's body out into the wilderness. They decide it's too far to the car and lay Jackie down in a safe space. Abbey offers to wait with her while Trina goes for help, and Trina books it for the road, eventually finding the trail of beer cans to their car. The grill of the car is all smashed in, and it won't start. And when Trina checks under the hood, she finds a huge mess, including underwear for some reason. Like, there's all sorts of garbage in here now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that. Is this their car?
Yes.
Are you sure?
It's the car that she picked them up in.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if she just found a random car like on the side of the road. Like, this could have belonged to anybody.
No, this is the car that they left parked there that the brothers must have destroyed when they found it.
It just seems like it had been there for a long time.
Yeah. Late at night, Trina seems to be running full speed down a road when she notices a police car coming down the path. She dashes out in front of it, screaming for the cop's help, and hugs the cop tight. It doesn't seem to question that he's groping her until she reaches up to swipe off his hat and glasses and realizes this is Ike, pretending to be a police officer?
Or is a police officer?
Yeah.
Because later she screams, "They're the police."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I thought they were just pretending.
Well, at first I thought he was the police officer, but I go back and forth on it. She struggles to get away from him, and he chokes her against the hood of the car until she knees him in the crotch. He fires his handgun at her as she's ducking off into the woods, and we cut back to Abbey with Jackie, and Jackie is dying. She hasn't eaten in 48 hours, and she was raped and beaten, and now she's dying here in the woods. So she doesn't get any sort of retribution for all the crimes that men have played against her entire life. This character just gets to die in the woods. Trina is chased through the woods by Ike for a long time. At one point, she grabs a branch and pulls it back and just waits several minutes for him to arrive and then snaps it in his face for a maximum few seconds advantage. Trina seems caught up in some plants where she's hiding for a moment. She notices a rock nearby and reaches for it ever so slowly. She throws the rock as a distraction into the bushes opposite her, and when Ike does his signature leaping scream, he goes through the bush and then down an embankment on the other side of the plants. Trina gets back to Abbey, basically leading Ike right to them, and Trina's having a panic attack and explains that Ike is a police officer before she notices that Jackie is gone. She turns to scream into the wilderness full of murderers, and Abbey promises Trina that they will get those bastards. We cut back to the house where Mother and Addley are playing board games. Addley is losing and upset about it. He would rather be out with Ike chasing the girls, and Mother says, well, then who's going to stay with me while Queenie is on the prowl? Addley says,
Grandma says Queenie's dead.
Now, come on, Addley, it's your role.
Addley suspects out loud, since he's never seen Queenie in his life, that Mother is making her up so that she can keep her sons nearby. Mother slaps Addley in response.
Addley, my sister Queenie was evil from birth. She was the most contrary baby they ever did see.
Queenie was evidently born with a full head of long white hair and broke Mother's neck in the crib, explaining the neck brace that Mother has been wearing for this whole film. Addley says, yeah, Grandma said she shot Queenie after that. Like, their grandmother was like, oh, you broke your sister's neck. Come on outside. I'm going to shoot you.
I mean, with this family, I would see that is probably...
But then, maybe that's not what happened. Addley, as proof that Queenie has been killed, shows Mother the ear that Grandma says she cut off of Queenie after she killed her. So she's like, come on out here, and then shot her sister, cut her ear off, and brought it back as
evidence.
As certificate of destruction.
Yeah, it's like a Snow White thing, like bringing back a boar's heart. Like, people can survive without an ear. Also, how can you prove whose ear this is?
Yeah, Van Gogh could have proved his own death. Mother says that this doesn't mean anything, and she knows Grandma set Queenie free. She makes Addley promise that he and Ike will never leave her, and he complies. The next morning, Abby's hands have been bandaged with what looks like gaffer's tape. It's just like white masking tape wrapped around her hands. They pack up all their equipment from camp and carry Jackie's body through the woods again. For some dumb reason, they take the body back to the house where the murderers live.
Well, why are you taking the body at all? You've been being hunted by these guys.
Yeah.
Just get out of there as quickly as humanly possible. Just run out of there. Don't carry a body. Come back for it later when you have, like, authorities with you.
Yeah.
Trina also had time to put her hair into, like, braided pigtails.
Yeah. I think it's also funny that Jackie kind of spelled out her own doom by making her friends wear bags over their heads the whole way to this camp so that they didn't know the way out. Because then it's like, oh, you might have survived the night if your friends knew which way the road was, but you put bags over their heads.
But they got to a road.
Eventually, 12 hours later.
But they got to a road when she was was stopped by the cop,
Yeah, but it was nighttime by then. They left in the morning.
But I'm just saying, you have a concept of where the road is now. Just find the road and run.
Go back there. Yeah, there's no reason to go back to the house other than revenge. What would be the purpose of killing it? They prop up Jackie's corpse against a nearby tree so she can watch them avenge her. Abbey gives her a kiss on the dead, bloody face. And then they do their Rat Pack forever. That's what they call themselves, the Rat Pack. They do sort of their hand gesture.
Members of the Rat Pack?
Sure.
Yeah, they were also dudes that sing. Like, there is no correlation here between them and the actual Rat Pack.
Inside the house, Mother complains,
After all my teaching and working and training, this is what I get. He loses 2 city gals in the woods.
Didn't he lose 3? They don't know Jackie's dead.
This is true.
He promises that he won't fuck it up this time, but Mother is very upset. She speaks to Ike through Addley and says, tell your brother you're going to do it right this time. And no more policeman gags.
Wait, which is why I think he isn't actually a policeman and he's just playing at it.
But he had a full uniform and a police car.
Yeah, they like to dress the part. They play up the role.
It's one of their scenes. It's one of the scenes they do.
They don't keep the police car at their house. So
how do you know?
Because it's not there.
But they have a lot of junk there. You don't know. It's around the back. I don't know.
Either way, very confusing. Ike and so okay, let's say for a moment they are joking that they have a police car, that he dresses up in the full policeman's uniform and drives around on these country roads in a police car.
Yeah,
and he's never encountered another police car.
Yeah, they're in the Barrens. Police don't go to the Barrens.
Well, which Barrens? Are you talking Baron?
Yeah,
that's true then.
I mean, you could also just assume that it's a normal car and they just have lights that they can put on top of it. Take off of it.
That's
when they
true.
Need.
Ike puts on his attack gear, which looks like maybe a paratrooper helmet type thing, and he promises Ma that he's going to do this right. Addley's in the kitchen when he hears the sound of one of the girls picking the lock on the kitchen door, and as he moves to investigate it, Abbey runs up behind him with the car antenna and stabs him with it hard enough that it goes through the back of his neck and comes out of his throat with that little round ball on the end of it.
Right. I feel like this is impossible. You can't go through. I mean, you're gonna hit a trachea or a spinal cord.
You're gonna hit the skin on the back and it's gonna bend.
That's true.
It's not gonna go the whole way through your head.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah.
It's gonna be like trying to inject Superman with a needle. It's just like
they're super flimsy, and it would just bend as soon as it touched him. But maybe she's got light speed reflexes, and she just managed to smash it exactly at the right angle. But and also, not only that, this is a car antenna. They fucking collapse. That's the whole point of the design. Even if you hit him square in the back, it would slide into itself.
I think a cool gag would have been that this is the kind of car antenna that extends when the car comes on.
Yeah.
And they had a battery, and she shoves it into his neck and then turns it on. So it
just slowly pushes out.
Yeah, I think that would have been a really interesting gag.
But also, it's connected to a radio, and the signal's getting better and better. That'd be great.
It starts playing Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
I don't know when that was recorded.
Yeah. Right here in the middle of this scene. Just as he's reacting to the throat stab, Trina comes through the door and smashes his crotch with the claw side of a hammer, and blood is just gushing out of his crotch as he tries to dislodge the tool. The girls then gag him until he suffocates. I'm surprised he's able to scream for as long as he is, with a hole through his entire neck and what looks like a full shirt of cloth in his mouth. Inexplicably, the girls decide to carry his corpse across the front yard, totally out in the open, where Ike notices.
Well, Jackie has to see.
Right.
She couldn't see what was going on.
Sorry, let's get this outside. But then, Ike sees it, and he does one of his squealing dives out of the top floor of this building, and he tackles them to the ground outside. When Ike realizes Addley is dead, he starts choking Trina against the yard. Abbey runs away to find a can of powdered Drano, which she then dumps in Ike's mouth, causing him to cough up bloody foam instantly.
Yeah, and I'm having PTSD from my accident last week of Trina in the face.
Yeah, she wanted to do a Mythbusters for this, and it turns out it's actually extremely painful to dump an entire bottle of Drano over your face. That happened. She's okay. I didn't do it, I swear.
The whole world just knows I'm an idiot now.
He persists in following Trina back to the house, and as he approaches her, Abbey drops a television on his head. His face is visible through the screen of the TV as it's shooting sparks all over the room because apparently it's still plugged in, and then he collapses, finally dead, and smoke rises from his mouth after death by electrocution. Oh, but wait, he's not dead, and he grabs Trina before she can leave the room. Desperately, she is able to snag an electric carving knife off the kitchen counter, not unlike the one we just had in The Exterminator, but this one is used in more of a stabbing motion to kill the beast, and she's splashed repeatedly with blood. I think at the end of this take, she literally gets a bunch of fake blood in her eye, and so she literally, like, puts the knife down to, like, put her hand up to her eye, like, okay, we overdid this. Abbey moves around the house in search of Mother, and after checking the bedroom, Mother creeps out of the closet to follow her. They move downstairs to the basement, and suddenly Abbey comes screaming into the room and collapses onto the bed with a big knife in her back. Mother laughs at the successful murder that one of her boys must have just pulled off, but when she gets closer, she realizes that this is not real. This is Jackie's prank that Abbey is reenacting. And Abbey stands up. Trina and Abbey throw the old woman across the bed, and Abbey offers to take care of her.
Your daughter will take care of you. You stay in bed, and we'll get your clothes, and make your food, and take care of everything. You stay in bed. Why? Because you're a sick woman!
It's clear Abbey is getting some much-needed therapy from this murder, and she's holding these giant inflatable boobs that are transparent, yes. And she's smashing them against Mother's face.
Oh my God.
With the nipple in her mouth, like she's breastfeeding her to death.
Yeah.
And then eventually she suffocates this woman.
This is such a weird way to kill her.
When she finishes, she starts screaming, realizing what she was envisioning doing while she killed this old woman. Later, the two friends bury Jackie in the woods?
Wait, we dragged this whole body dangerously back to this site, and now we're not even going to take her out of the woods to give her a proper burial with her family?
Yeah, she doesn't have a family.
We're going to bury her here with Ike and Addley and Mother.
Yeah, where she would want to lay for the rest of her life.
I guess the only reason that I could see to bury her would be to keep wild animals from tearing apart her body while they're
like they should have been doing with their food the whole time.
Yeah. Because, they're going to have to leave. It's probably going to be a couple of days before they can get back.
Once again, I don't know, take her to that car that was left in the road or put her in the house or something.
Or find the police car that's apparently here somewhere, hidden on the property. But they hang her class ring on a necklace that's draped over her half-assed headstone, which is like 2 sticks on a cross. And as they leave the funeral, to which none of Jackie's family were invited, they come face to face with Queenie, the one-eared devil of the woods, and we fade to yellow as Queenie attacks.
Oh man, is Queenie the Jersey Devil? Is that
She probably is, because this is very close to where that mythology exists. Our writer-director here was Charles Kaufman. He's the brother of Troma founder Lloyd Kaufman, who we had earlier this year on both sides of the camera in the final countdown. This was Charles's second feature after Squeeze Play, which his brother directed. He also wrote 65 episodes of Dennis the Menace, the animated series. He also wrote an episode of the original Ghostbusters, as well as 4 episodes of the real Ghostbusters. So he wrote for the one with the monkey and the one with people.
He's writing, I get to write on a Ghostbusters cartoon? Great.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what's this?
Charles was also the EP on the 2010 semi-remake of Mother's Day, which I watched for this and has almost nothing to do with this movie, aside from an older woman with 2 kids, or technically in the remake she has 4 kids, but 2 of them are named Ike and Addley, and they take their last name from one of the actors playing the sons here. But aside from that, there's almost nothing in common with the movie Mother's Day. The writer here was Warren Leight, or Light. This is Warren's first writing credit, and Warren has over 100 story credits across 3 incarnations of Law & Order. Frederick Coffin played Ike. Coffin becomes the surname of the crazy family in the remake. Frederick Coffin was a lunar shopping observer in Nothing Lasts Forever. He played Karl in the McGuire episode Deadly Silence. He's Officer Koharski in Wayne's World.
Yeah.
And he plays Parker Wyndham in Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century.
Gotta get that Xenon reference.
Yep. Beatrice Pons played Mother. She's credited here as Rose Ross. She was Mrs. Emma Ritzik on The Phil Silvers Show. We had him earlier this year as William Warkoff in The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood. And she was also Lucille Tootie in 32 episodes of Car 54, Where Are You? Robert Collins played Ernie. That's the guy hosting the self-help group at the beginning. He plays Darren in Prom Night 3. He's Lord High Executioner in the 2-part A Night in Terror Tower episodes of the Goosebumps series. And he played Earl in an episode of the late 90s FX TV series based on the films. I never realized that there was a show, and it has 2 seasons starring Carrie Ann Moss. There's a TV show based on the movie's effects. He also played a state trooper in The Ref. Peter Fox was the Dobber. He plays Roger Carter in Fraternity Row, and he's Otter in Delta House, which is the TV series adapted from the Animal House film. Kevin Lowe played Ted. He was Agent Brown in 4 episodes of Briscoe County Jr. Robert Carnegie was Tex. He plays somebody in Cruising, not clear who. And he also plays Bobby, the killer's coworker and friend in Don't Go in the House. The one who's like, oh, I got a couple of real live ones for us. Stanley Kaufman plays Stanley Kaufman. He's the older man at the pool party. He's the father of Charles and Lloyd Kaufman. And the woman with the dog at the party was their mother. Yeah, this movie's kind of dumb.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this movie.
It really has one thing going for it, and it's the hands getting sliced open.
And that was just like, it grossed me out a lot. So I didn't really enjoy that in terms of like a gruesome horror type fun. It's not like Friday the 13th kills where you're like, this is fun.
No,
because there really weren't any good kills in this movie, in my opinion, because they don't actually kill any of the girls. I mean, they do things to them, and one of them eventually dies.
That's true.
But they don't kill
We're not
any
even
of the
clear
girls.
what the cause of death is for Jackie.
I mean, terrible things happened to her, and it caused her death. But it wasn't like a horror film kill, like we see her being murdered.
Yeah.
And then when they come back and get these guys, again, like, I guess the thing through the neck was supposed to be the cool kill of the movie. I don't know. It wasn't all that... I don't know. It wasn't all that interesting of a kill to me.
Yeah. Which is probably why this guy didn't do more horror movies after this.
Yeah. And aside from my own incident, I wouldn't have found the other kill of the guy drinking Drano particularly terrible either.
That becomes sort of a mainstay of trauma attack stuff. Drano plays a big part because they figured out how to make pink foam come out of an actor's mouth safely, and so they do that a lot in trauma films.
Yeah, so like I don't think this film has much going for it because it's not a great story. The kills aren't all that great. And so I'm like, what do you have left?
Yeah, it's basically, it feels like Texas Chainsaw Massacre up to a certain point, and then it becomes like Last House on the Left, or one of the like revenge type movies where the victims turn it around and turn on the attackers, which doesn't really happen in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, and I guess then I would have preferred it be more of a cat and mouse game where instead of they get there and then immediately kill the guys, it's more of a now we get to play with you.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think, Richard?
I could barely stand to watch this movie. As you know, I'm not a big on the horror film, but I was waiting for something interesting to happen. And then when they got abducted, I was like, okay, so like, they're going to kill these girls. And then they just like kind of torture them. And that's definitely like, I rather watch just clean kills than watching torture and rape stuff. Like I can't, I will admit that I fast forwarded through a good portion of this movie because I can't watch this. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I'm just like nothing. I feel nothing at all for this movie.
I think even though as a horror fan, it's kind of lame because, like you said, you don't get really good kills. You get one really graphic thing where it's like literally just a person who's bad at physics trying to lower her friend out of a window. And
it's a totally unnecessary thing. Like if you're sacrificing your body and you're like, then you like achieve something, really awesome. Like she hurt herself in killing one of these guys, then like maybe that's worth it. But like this seemed just like a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. And the decapitation that starts it like is not a very good decapitation.
Oh no.
And so for the only realistic, fun violence gore to be that one moment with the hands, and the whole rest of the movie is just like slapsticky violence is a really weird choice. I think if they had even 2 more scenes, specifically kills, where people were killed in a very gruesome way with a lot of like meaty, red blood stuff, that this would be worth a watch. But I would say the way it ends up, there's not enough here to warrant sitting through the whole movie.
Yeah. I mean, you could have even just added a couple more girls so that some more of them could have died.
Yeah.
I mean,
or
round out that rat pack.
Yeah. They could have even done like, obviously Death Proof was after this, but they could have done something like that where there was a whole team of girls at the beginning that all die, and then you get a different team of girls. I also thought it was weird that the Dobber thing never came back.
Yeah.
And it just like, other than to set up that she gets shit on by men the whole time, you would think that she would be the one that would get to have some other revenge. Maybe they would kill Abbey and then she would get to save the day. But who knows?
Well, the whole beginning of this movie doesn't make sense to me either. It's just the mother is at some kind of self-help seminar.
that was weird.
To find victims, but then she lives out in the middle of nowhere, and these 2 hippies said we need a ride home.
Did they also live in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, it's like they. I mean, it seems like they are so far off. Because how long did it take the girls to drive there? It seems like they're really off the beaten path.
Yeah.
So where was this guy having this seminar? Like, I was like, I don't get how we got here.
Yeah.
And I don't get how Jackie, if she doesn't know where the Barrens are, knows where this campsite is, or knows that it's okay to camp here, or knows that there's even a lake there, and that you can set
who
camp.
recommended going here.
Yeah. Like I don't know.
I got an anonymous telegram from M other.
Yeah. I mean, I also I kind of like that it came around that which one was it? It was Abbey that had the invalid mother at the beginning who needed her constantly waiting on her hand and foot, and then like at the end she's getting her revenge on this woman for her feelings towards her own mother.
Yeah.
But then I think you needed to play that up more. If we're gonna bother seeing anything at the beginning, how about we see a few more scenes of her having to deal with this?
Or Mother's Day 2 starts with Abbey talking to the police like, I don't know, it looks like someone suffocated my mother. I can't tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Someone must have broken in.
So she got a taste for blood.
Yeah.
She
and
came
so
home
now
and killed
Abby's
her
the killer. Up or down, Jess?
It's a down. I wouldn't recommend this one to anyone.
I agree. It's a down.
Down.
This is like one of Eli Roth's favorite movies. When we saw it was at the New Beverly during his Greats of Roth festival, and it's not good.
Yeah.
I know what he likes about it, but
as a horror film, it doesn't have a lot going for it. I really don't think there's so many better horror films out there. So it wasn't great.
Letterboxd. Richard.
Oh, this is way, way down there. This is coming in at 105.
Out of 108 or
109 now.
109.
So this is going just below Gorp and just above Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Nice.
Or Zombie 2 or Zombie. I don't know that movie.
Zombie 2 Zombie. This is 91st place for me. That goes right below How to Beat the High Cost of Living and just above He Knows You're Alone.
So I have it in like the mid 90s. I think it's like 95, 96, somewhere around there. It's below Can't Stop the Music and above Baltimore Bullet.
All right. Well, I think that's everything for this one. If you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd, where, as I said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Please consider rating us on iTunes to help people find the show, and if you take the time to leave us a review, we will thank you personally in an upcoming episode. If you're feeling especially generous, you can also support the show through patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast. And on that note, I'd like to offer a special shout out to the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast. Thank you so much for your iTunes review. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Ordinary People, which IMDb describes like so. The accidental death of the older son of an affluent family deeply strains the relationships among the bitter mother, the good-natured father, and the guilt-ridden younger son. We leave you now with the trailer for Ordinary People.
In this typical town, in this comfortable home, 3 ordinary people are about to live an extraordinary story.
It's starting all over again. The lying, the covering up, the disappearing for hours. I will not stand for it. I can't stand it. I really can't.
What kind of psychiatrists are you? They all believe in dreams.
I do believe in dreams. Only sometimes I want to know what's happening when you're awake.
I don't want to see any doctors or counselors. This is my family. And if we have problems, then we will solve those problems in the privacy of our own home.
I knew something was wrong even before he tried to kill himself.
I think it is a very private matter.
You never came to the hospital. How do you know about the hospital? Your mother did come to the hospital, comrade, and you know that.
I just don't know how to deal with it anymore.
Why are you hassling me, huh? Why are you trying to make me mad? Are you mad? No!
He provokes people.
I would never have let him put electricity in my head.
You blame me for the whole thing.
Can't you see anything except in terms of how it affects you?
I miss it sometimes. The hospital.
But that was a hospital. This is the real world.
Did it hurt?
We've never really talked about it.
How long are you going to punish yourself? When are you going to quit?
I loved him. What in hell has happened?
That she hates me. Can't you see that?
Mothers don't hate their sons.
I mean, there's someone besides your mother you got to forget.
You better make sure that your kids are good and safe. And then you come to me and tell me how to be happy.
Do you love me? Do you really love me?
Just do one wrong thing.
And what was the one wrong thing you did?
Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, Timothy Hutton, in an extraordinary story of ordinary people.